Comics and graphic novels are a popular form of media that many assume are aimed solely at young audiences and are strictly fiction, ranging from superhero stories to fantasies. In reality, graphic media is often used as a powerful tool for portraying significant historical events and more mature subject matter, such as the Holocaust. Through an examination of Holocaust-focused graphic media, such as Art Spiegelman's Mouse or Joe Kubert's Yosel, as well as insights from other writings on the Holocaust in comics, this video aims to show that comics and graphic media can be used to provide an accurate depiction of the Holocaust in a manner that is engaging to read, thereby making important stories accessible to a wider audience. Mouse by Art Spiegelman is the cornerstone of Holocaust representation in comics. The Pulitzer Prize-winning graphic novel tells the story of Vladek Spiegelman, Art's father and a Holocaust survivor, as well as showing the process of Art gathering his father's story. Spiegelman depicts the characters of his work as anthropomorphic animals, with Jews being mice, Poles being pigs, and Nazis being cats, using these metaphors to simplify the complex historical events he discusses. The depiction of characters as different animals led some to question the historical accuracy of the graphic novel, but this was done with a purpose. Spiegelman mentions in Mouse that imagery reverberates. If he had decided to draw the Jews as rhinos, he didn't think there would have been as many cultural connections, showing the direct intent behind the metaphor. He wanted the different groups easily discernible to readers to hit home the way that cultural and ethnic differences were looked at the time. It was every person for themselves, and people were on high alert for anyone that was different. He even went as far as having the mice wear pig masks when they were trying to remain hidden from the Nazis. This skepticism of the historical accuracy of Mouse can be seen through its original classification as fiction by the New York Times, before eventually being classified as nonfiction after complaints. Spiegelman did extensive research on both the Holocaust and World War II as a whole, as well as ensuring that the historical context was at the forefront of his biographical work. This research exposed Spiegelman to art and written text created by prisoners in camps such as Auschwitz-Birkenau, including portraits, maps, and diaries that led in crucial insight into the daily lives of prisoners. Said works inspired Spiegelman during the creation of Mouse, both aesthetically and politically, and showed him the power that drawings could have when conveying a message. Spiegelman also gained specific information from the drawings that he had access to, such as those done by Waldemar Nowakowski in Auschwitz. Nowakowski depicted common events within the camp, such as beatings, and Spiegelman used these drawings to ensure accuracy within Mouse. Spiegelman also manages to maintain a balance between his father's accounts of the Holocaust and his own research and reading. Spiegelman knew that the testimony he was depicting within Mouse relied on his father's lived experience, and that it would be influenced by emotions. The combination of text and images used to create comics as a medium makes it more challenging to display authentic stories without personal biases, but Spiegelman manages to do so. As mentioned by Kate Polak in Displacing the Memorial, Holocaust Comics in Conversation with Memory, the scene in which Vladek Spiegelman first enters Auschwitz is a prime example of this. Spiegelman mentions to his father that he had read about the orchestra that played when prisoners entered the camp, and Vladek outright denies it, saying that he only remembered marching and not orchestras. Polak notes that Spiegelman's depiction of the conversation, drawing two equal-sized frames, one with and one without the orchestra, equalizes the historical facticity of the Auschwitz Gate Orchestra in Vladek's memory. By giving both perspectives, Spiegelman displays his willingness to challenge both his father's accounts and those historical records, while also showing that different representations of the Holocaust must remain in conversation with each other to ensure accuracy. In direct comparison to other non-graphic historical writings on the events of the Holocaust, the depictions within Mouse remain quite accurate. One such example is seen through Spiegelman's depiction of Vladek's time in a train car during transit. During this scene, Vladek is seen being rushed into a train car before then fighting to ensure he has his own space, forcing himself into the corner and making a hammock out of a blanket to stay above the crowd. Vladek adjusts to his new confinement, surviving solely on the snow he was able to pull in from the roof of the train car. Similar scenes are also depicted in the first story of But I Live, 3 stories of child survivors of the Holocaust, in which David Schaefer describes his experience during the Holocaust. Following his family's exclusion into a ghetto, they were violently marched and forced into a car amidst massive crowding and confusion. This is very similar to the accounts of transit seen in The Train Journey by Simone Gigliotti. One survivor, Regina Hoffman, recounts being herded into cattle cars with people screaming and being packed in like cargo. Another survivor, Merrick Schneiderman, mentioned that cars were suffocating and that children and elderly began laying down and dying within the cattle cars due to the overcrowding. These depictions mirror Vladik's struggles in Mouse and David's in But I Live, and are just one example of where graphic medium is able to accurately depict the horrors of the Holocaust without taking away the historical significance of the events being depicted. Another representation of the Holocaust in the comic medium is Joe Kubert's Yosel. Yosel is a fictional account of a Jewish artist in the Warsaw Ghetto and a depiction of what Kubert's life may have been like if his family had not emigrated to the United States. Kubert left the story in rough pencil sketches so it would seem immediate, visceral, and loose, like reporting on the events being depicted. As stated by Victoria Ahrens in Holocaust Graphic Narratives, Yosel is seen as an overlay of fictional characters and imagined dialogue and action into a distant historical event. Kubert uses his alter ego to bring personal perspectives and life to an event that is normally only depicted in traditional history books. This brings with it a new level of engagement, opening the story of the Warsaw Ghetto uprisings to a new demographic of readers. Even though the individual story depicted in Yosel is fiction, the overall depiction of life in the Warsaw Ghetto throughout is very accurate. For example, Kubert depicts starved and sick Jews laying in the street and it mentions that hunger and disease were constant companions in the ghetto. There's no medicine, no heat, and no food. Other accounts of life in the Warsaw Ghetto, such as Resistance, the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising by Gutman Israel, echo this sentiment. Due to the evacuation of Jews from elsewhere in Poland, the Warsaw Ghetto's population grew to over 500,000, and overcrowding led to widespread hunger and disease. People succumbed to their ailments and collapsed in the streets, just like what was depicted in Yosel. This shows that the representation of the Holocaust through graphic media can remain accurate even if the narrative itself is fictional, reinforcing the effectiveness of the medium at tackling the Holocaust. Master Race by Bernie Kriegstein provides an alternate perspective than the previously mentioned graphic novels, as it displays the events of the Holocaust from the perspective of a camp commandant post-war. The comic depicts Karl Raceman's struggles with his past upon recognizing a man who survived Camp Belsen, the camp which Raceman commanded during the war. The strip eventually ends with Karl Raceman being run over by the train while trying to escape. Master Race shows how comics can be used to depict the Holocaust as it tackles a very dark and deep storyline in only 8 pages, using images to convey the past while the text shows Raceman's confliction over his actions. For example, page 4 of the comic depicts various acts of violence being committed, the burning of books, destruction of shops, and even the assault of Jews in the streets. As well, formations of soldiers march as if they were robots. All the while, Raceman coldly recounts said events while they happen, with the caption above the soldiers saying it was as if a wild, uncontrollable wave swept him and his kind along with it. By progressing the story in this way, Kriegstein is able to show the link between hatred and regimentation that fascism and ultimately the Holocaust was built on, without explicitly saying it. The juxtaposition of orderly soldiers marching in a line while mentioning the uncontrollable social state at the time shows that the hatred was so indoctrinated that it was no longer uncontrollable, but just a part of their new way of life under the strictly regimented Nazi regime. Master Race displays the ability of comics to accurately depict the events of the Holocaust by providing a different perspective. Kriegstein looks at the Holocaust from a German point of view, furthering the idea that in order to be accurate depictions of the Holocaust should be based on not just historiography and scholarship, but also subjective views of the events. But I Live, 3 Stories of Child Survivors of the Holocaust, edited by Charlotte Shalley, is a representation of the Holocaust that combines comics with traditional written text. The volume contains the stories of 4 children survivors of the Holocaust, David Schaefer, Diepko and Rolf Kampf, and Emmy Arbel. These stories were then taken by 3 comic authors, Miriam Livke, Gilad Seltikar, and Barbara Yellen, respectively, and turned into graphic depictions. These graphic narratives do not merely illustrate the events described, but they also add more depth, as readers can visualize the struggle that the survivors experience. In the sections following the graphic novels, But I Live contains historical background for each of the survivors' stories, contextualizing their experiences within the larger framework of the Holocaust. This includes background on ghettoization, deportation, and life in hiding. The survivors then give personal testimonies showing the impact that the Holocaust had on their lives, providing an authenticity and depth to the graphic interpretations and grounding them in lived experience. This volume exemplifies the ability for the Holocaust to be depicted accurately in a graphic format, as it combines graphic design, personal stories, and historiography all into one book. This holistic approach to Holocaust representation allows readers to engage with the imagery and personal narratives, while also gaining insight into the historical background of the events they are reading about. This makes the history of the Holocaust more accessible to a wider audience, while also ensuring that the facts are accurate and the historical significance of the events are not lost. So what is it that allows graphic novels to be an accurate medium for the representation of the Holocaust? The answer is the ability of comics to combine personal memories and testimonies with historical context, while also providing visuals that make the information more accessible to readers. Whether it's through the documentary-esque feel of Mouse, the raw and visceral depictions of Yosel, or the holistic approach of But I Live, graphic novels maintain the ability to highlight the complexity of the Holocaust while maintaining historical significance. Overall, graphic novels and comics maintain the ability to depict significant historical events, such as the Holocaust, in an accurate manner, due to their ability to combine personal narratives with history. They provide a means for art to intersect with history, to depict narratives in a way that is both deeply moving and educational. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my video.